Hello everyone, welcome to an all new episode of the Indic Explorer Show. I'm sure you all must be wondering who's the guest today. Well, I just have to tell you an information. This is a special show which we are doing because it's the fag end of the year and there is no guest. It's just the year in review of sorts, me reminiscing about the show, uh, you know, to talk to all my subscribers and viewers about the channel and to give some kind of a status update. So that's why I wanted to do this show because, when in the last 6 odd months that I've been doing this show, I've been mostly talking and engaging with guests. And I really wanted to do a personal tete-a-tete with uh, the viewers and the audience so that I can kind of give my point of view on certain things and people will get some more clarity about me and the show, why and where I started the show, where did the whole concept of Indic Explorer come from, and some small tidbits about the future plans with the channel. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this episode, and that's basically it. Nothing really as such otherwise. Firstly, I want to start by thanking everybody here. We just crossed 1,000 subscribers on the channel, like in the first week of December or so, first or second week of December, we crossed 1,000. That was my first milestone, to be very honest. Not the last, but the first milestone that I wanted to touch because when I was starting this channel, I felt like once whenever you start a YouTube channel, initially it's just friends and family and they like everything you do, but and some of them might even critique, but on your channel gains a certain credibility only when you reach that threshold of 1,000 people, which in most cases will have people you don't really know personally. And what you can call, your dedicated fan base for the channel. And whatever you post, at least it reaches some level of activity in terms of views, etc. That, whatever you post, there'll be certain people your videos will hit a certain threshold. So that was the starting point and the milestone I really wanted to reach. I didn't have any timeline for it, to be very honest. I didn't expect that I will reach even this far when I was making it, and I felt like there were too many hurdles and too many loops to cross and jump over and hop over. If you would have asked me before I made the channel, will I reach there? I highly doubt I would have said I would. But yet somehow I have scampered, crawled, galloped, whatever you want to say, and touched 1K in 6 months. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of you at the end of this year for this. And yes, I also wanted to say that my next milestone is a lot more challenging from here, which is 10K. I don't know how long it will take, but that is the next milestone that I'm looking at. I think once you hit 10K, there's a certain level of, credibility, not just credibility, but also a certain level of traction that most of your content gets. So that's the target I've set for myself. Having said that, more than 95% of YouTubers don't even reach 1K. So I think I've crossed one big stairwell, one big obstacle. So it feels really great, but hoping that I can reach the next mile, and I will need all your continued support, and also for you to share the channel and the videos with your friends and family so that I can grow faster with this channel, and we would like to bring similar such interesting content to you going forward as well. So that's that. So I thought I'll take a few questions that people would want to know. So journey of the Indic Explorer before the start of the YouTube channel. Not everybody would know. A few people, I'm sure, know this. Not everybody, though. The journey of the Indic Explorer actually starts way before YouTube. It starts way before the regular social media, that is Twitter and Instagram as well. It started, interestingly, in an audio social media app called Clubhouse. I still remember it was just after the pandemic, March 2020, I think, if I'm not wrong, when Clubhouse opened as an app for the Android users. I had heard a lot about it, and I found it quite interesting, the concept, when it was there for iOS at that time. And I was waiting for it to launch, and as soon as it launched, I think I was there in a couple of days. I joined by my original name, and I used to listen on a lot of rooms, and then I decided to adopt the moniker of Indic, the Indic Explorer. I found that name quite interesting. I don't know why. And it was the pandemic, and I also created at the same time a Twitter. I think the Twitter handle and the around the same time, or probably a little before, in and around that time. I created a Twitter account and an Instagram account. I just put an opening post on Instagram, which was that I want to start a YouTube channel. I didn't put anything else. On Twitter, I think I was fairly active on Twitter already at that point, on the Indic Explorer handle, and I used to tweet quite a lot of things over there. But nothing out of the ordinary, And I still remember the Insta post. First thing I put was, I want to start a YouTube channel on Indian history and culture and all of that. That's it. I forgot about it. And I really didn't know how to start a YouTube channel. I don't think I knew what resources would be required. I certainly knew that I didn't have any. So it was more of wishful thinking. But I was fairly active on Twitter. Not too many followers yet, but still fairly active. And then Clubhouse happens, and I started listening to the hall. I started checking out the topics in the hallway. I started attending rooms on different interesting topics. And after the pandemic, after the first wave, there was a lot of time in between where you could listen to something on audio. So I think it really fit the bill there. And slowly I started participating in the rooms after kind of finding my feet with the app. And lo and behold, I created my own Clubhouse, a club community on Clubhouse, the Indic Paradigm. That's where the earlier moniker of the Indic Paradigm, the show, comes from that Clubhouse room. And I attracted a decent amount of following in Club. I think now I have probably 1,000 plus on Clubhouse as well. So we used to do interesting social rooms, closed rooms on Clubhouse, and we used to talk a lot of like-minded youngsters, boys and girls, who were really keen on Indian civilization, Indian heritage, history, etc. And we had a lot of exchange of views. Sometimes we agreed, sometimes we didn't, but that doesn't matter. But it was a genesis of a lot of the ideas I had in my mind. When those ideas remain inside you, they are just a concept, but they really take shape and form when you kind of share it with others. That's how I think it was. And it was great to bounce off ideas with people in the same age group. A lot of people had similar viewpoint. In social media, you tend to gravitate towards like-minded people, so you form these small, close-knit micro interest communities. And so we used to do closed rooms as well. We used to do open rooms as well on different subjects. I myself have hosted a few audio rooms, and it got a lot of traction, and I thought, okay, great, let's take it as it comes and see where it goes. I still had no idea about anything beyond tweeting on Twitter and speaking on Clubhouse. Instagram was still fairly inactive at that point for me. So yeah, that was the journey of the Indic Explorer before the YouTube channel started. What is the concept and objective behind the channel? How does this channel? Okay. So before I talk about the concept and objective of the channel, I would like to talk about what was going in my head about what I want to do. And the confusion for me. So I was very, after these discussions in Clubhouse, I was very clear that I want to do a podcast. I had tried previously a small audio podcast many years back. And podcasts are audio, right? I wasn't very sure about coming on video. It's kind of camera shy or whatever you say. Done it, I wasn't really that good at all. So I wasn't sure what I should do. But yeah, I guess I'm told that my voice is a little decent for audio. So I thought maybe audio, but I don't know the production quality, etc. There was a lot to it that I wasn't satisfied with. So the whole question in my mind the whole time was, if I want to do something, what should it be? What format should it be? And I decided that it should be a podcast. Now, what kind of a podcast? Because abroad, podcasts are audio. If it's a video podcast, you have to specify. So by its very nature, a podcast is an audio. In India, on the other hand, audio podcasting never really was the thing. I think it was podcast kind of automatically was video. Audio podcasting was still at a very nascent stage. I don't think the numbers are that great compared to anything on video. And India never had a history of talk radio. So because it didn't have that, it was all about countdown music and songs on radio. So the culture of having talk shows on audio just wasn't there. So there was this whole thing of whether I should do audio because I'm camera shy versus video because that's what people in India actually consume, was something that was there in my head. And for the longest of times, I couldn't resolve the deadlock at all. So yeah, that happens. So that was the main thing there. So that was the first question in my mind. The next thing was, what happened? What were the series of events that happened that led to what was the turning point? The turning point was Indic Academy. They actually did a conference of global polytheistic religions where they called speakers from different indigenous traditions, native traditions of the world. Professor Edward Butler, who's the head of the CGPIT, the institute that the foundation that runs within Indic Academy for this particular cause. And I used to interact a lot with him back and forth on philosophical topics. If you're watching this, Dr. Butler. There was a session, there was this global polytheist conference that was there, for which he posted on Twitter. So I asked him some details about it, and he gave me the details, for me to attend that event. And I told him I don't want to attend, I want to speak at that event. And he told me, okay, fine, give me what are your pointers, what do you want to cover? And I gave him that, and he was like, wow, you can probably contribute something in this event, So he added me up as one of the speakers. Again, I was on audio. My condition was that I would be off from video. I was still kind of camera shy. But yeah, I gave a 10-minute talk in that conference, and I also I think I had a, I answered a question or something like that, and then I during the course of that conference, my friend, who is my friend now, but back then was just an acquaintance, Harsh Madhusudan Gupta, texted me offline, uh, who are you? I mean, after my talk was over, he texted me, who are you? And tell me your, where are you from and stuff like that. And we joked a little bit, and so connected with him there, and the conference went really well. My talk was appreciated, and I thought that, I can do this. I think I can do this. That was the first starting point. After that, I also went on a discussion with my friend Suraj Balakrishnan to Jaipur Dialogues on a topic which was basically dharma for millennials. And that was again an interesting topic. Again, I was just on audio. Jaipur Dialogues USA, and I must thank Vibhuti ji for giving me that chance then to speak on this subject. I went to Abhivardhan, a friend of mine again, on his podcast and the Indus Things YouTube channel. I did a few things like that. And slowly I thought, okay, this is something that I can do. Something I need to think a little deeper on what exactly I need to do with some of the ideas I had. But bouncing it off with different people on Clubhouse, going and talking in podcasts, I think that gave me the confidence. Thereafter I've also been to the P Guru's channel of Sri Iyer. So that was the next detour, and from there I had an interaction because of the Global Polytheist Conference. Before I started the talk, I had an interaction with Hari Kiran ji, and I told him that I had an idea for a YouTube channel. I was kind of wanting to figure out what to do on the editing aspects of it, and I remember I made a very detailed discussion. I even made a presentation. I even wrote a Harvard business essay, things like that, on to pitch my channel so that I can get people to help me get it off the ground. And then one of the few days I saw a Twitter post. So because my main challenge in the beginning was to find the right person who could kind of edit for my channel. And that was the area that I was looking for, and I saw a post from the Bharat Varta podcast. Somebody had posted to Roshan, wanting an editor, and then someone suggested Roshan Kariyappa of the Bharat Varta podcast would be able to, help out. And I forgot about that post, but a month after that, I realized, and this was at the same time when the discussions were going on with Indic Academy. And it was basically that Roshan can kind of help you find an editor. So I remembered that I reached out to Roshan in the back end. Surprisingly for me, I had been to the Brown Pandit's podcast as well, only on audio again. And Roshan had heard me speak in that podcast. And he had shared a link or two, I think, sometime to my handle, etc., about his podcast. So I texted him saying that, I'm looking for an editor. Can you help me out? And he said we could kind of collaborate and work and, do something together, and probably, his editor can help me out. So my pilot episode was, that episode never got out on YouTube. I called a couple of people as guests, and it just didn't turn out the way we thought it should, So, the guests were not very cooperative, and it was my first show, and I was still figuring things out, right? So, it didn't pan out too well. But again, Roshan, in all graciousness, gave me another chance, and yeah, and hopefully that's episode 0 will never come out in public. It was quite terrible to say the least. But yeah, I tried another shot at it, and my first podcast was with this Badaga artist, photographer, musician, whatever you say, Ari Jaiprakash. He was from the Badaga tribe in Nilgiris in Ooty. I connected to him through a friend, and yeah, that show was the first, and he basically spoke about artwork that he had done, both himself and through AI, and a lot of his artwork was inspired by Indian culture, spirituality, yoga, philosophy, etc. So that is how the first episode was. And thereafter I branched out on my own, and I got to work with multiple editors as well. Things materialized with Indic Academy, and the idea just found wings, like I said. So and by the time, the help that I got from Roshan and his team after the first episode, especially the next few episodes, in terms of what equipment is required, how do I improve my production values, how do I use the equipment, how do I maximize the output of all of those things. I also realized that I'll have to upgrade my setup. So I did that. I think from the second episode onwards, there was, greater improvement in terms of what I wanted to cover. I'll also come on what was the concept of the podcast that I had in mind. But it took me probably around, probably around five episodes. I think by the 6th episode of the show, I found the right placement, the equipment, the backdrop, everything. 6th episode, the one that I did with Vishakha Moge, the Ayurvedic doctor, I think that was the episode where I figured it all out, the formula of it. But yeah, the first few episodes, content-wise, are still pretty interesting. I would definitely exhort everyone in the audience to check them out. So yeah, that's basically it on that. So the concept of my channel, was actually, there is a lot of Indic content available online. I didn't want to be part of the chorus. A lot of it is political. I didn't feel I could add too much value there. There are already a lot of bigwigs doing it. A lot of it was news-based. Again, I couldn't add much value there also because mine is a recorded podcast and not a live, streaming kind of show. So, my editor is not able to match the speed with which I record episodes because the number of I'm usually quite a few episodes ahead of time. So, so for me, it was not possible to have something news oriented, current or trending, which is a negative. Many people told me because, you have to have that hashtag trending, only then it'll work. So I decided I'm going to stay out of that whole quote unquote trending topics, and I'm going to focus more on evergreen concepts and topics. Now, obviously it starts from the need that I have there's a certain posting schedule, so I won't be able to handle that point. And also what it does is that since the concept is not time bound, my videos can find traction even after the initial cycle after the posting period, which makes my content a little more evergreen. So I kind of consciously went against the trend and avoided trending, newsworthy kind of things. And my focus was I wanted to have a niche which no one is covering in the Indic sphere. At the same time, I wanted that to be broad. So, I mean, yeah, I know it's kind of contradictory, but yeah. So I wanted to do something more expansive so that I'm not restricted on the topics, the diversity of guests. So I decided to adopt culture as my large net, not sharp, large net. Because then I can do music, I can do architecture, I can do history, I can do dance, I can do food, I can do holidays and travel, and it just goes on and on. I can do science and technology also. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I thought that will be a good area to focus. And yeah, so everything I chose was tended to be outside of the news cycle, outside of the politics of it, more about culture. And I think that has been a very rich and gratifying experience because I've not just, in terms of what topics I pick up or the guests I choose, it's two other things: the research I do behind that before any show, as well as what I hear and learn from talking to guests. In a way, I can say that this podcast became like a visiting card for me to talk to people that I would probably otherwise not get an opportunity to talk to, and I think that is my biggest, the biggest plus that I have got from doing this whole project. I've been able to talk to people I don't think I otherwise would have spoken to at all, or would have got the time of the day at all. It's pretty much like a visiting card for me, So, hey, I'm Vineet. I'm running the Indic Explorer podcast. Would you come on the show? And that's worked wonders for me, to be very honest. I've had a lot of very good guests. So, so the idea of doing where I differed. So I was doing an Indic cultural YouTube channel podcast. But where I differed from the rest was the whole thing that I often mention about the interplay of Indic culture and modernity. Now, that is an area that I felt is truly unexplored. Because culture is explored through a traditional prism, which is great. It has its own place. But I was looking at a younger demographic audience, 18 to 35, max 40, men and women, youngsters, young college-going students, who are just in the bachelor's or later part of their college education, or young working professionals. That's the kind of target demographic I was looking at. Because I felt somewhere that Indian culture, although it's very rich, it's not being presented in the right way for the next generation, which is turning many people off and getting people deracinated from their cultural roots. So I wanted to do my small bit to, kind of keep the youth grounded. That the fact that you can be part of the modern world and still be rooted in your culture. And I don't see those two things as a contradiction at all. I actually see that, interestingly, as change with continuity. That's Indian modernity for you. It's ever evolving. It's changing. The moral arch is constantly expanding. But the base is still there from the past. And I think that merging of the past and the future is what somehow I wanted to achieve from this channel. So, yeah, many people call this Raita, Wing, whatever podcast. I don't like those terminologies, to be honest, but I would say that it's an Indic modernist podcast. And Because a lot of Indic culture is only past oriented, which is good. It should have a gaze to the past. But one leg also has to be on the present and the future. And modernity, like I said, change with continuity in India. You don't break the base edifice, but you build layers on top. So, modernity to me is not a bad word at all. The question is, how do you define modernity? It should not be defined on the paradigms of the West. It's defined on Indian terms through an Indian lens. And that kind of modernity is worth appreciating and respecting, right? And worth following and embracing as well. So, yeah, that was the core value behind this podcast that I wanted to achieve. And I hope I'm able to succeed in this endeavor. It's a journey. It's not a goal. It's a work in progress. And hopefully I'll get there someday. What? Okay. Advice to other young aspiring YouTubers and content creators. My advice to you is to start small. Don't get stuck in the nitty gritties of getting everything right. Trust me, never happens. Never happens. I've done 20 shows. I still can't say that I've perfected it fully. So just keep learning, and I think learning on the job is probably the best way to get some basics right on audio. Interestingly, I've been told, and I think I agree, that audio is more important. So first focus on good audio, a good mic, a good video, way to capture the video and record the video. For audio, I have an ATR Audio Technica mic. For the video capture, I have Riverside, which does a good job. I would suggest that, which I don't use, but I would suggest if you can get a good webcam, that will be a good idea as well. And I have a JBL headset, so that's the basic thing. I have a ring light, which I think I had it from my second episode, or I think from the first episode itself. Yeah, the ring light, which kind of helps light up the place a little bit. It's not that expensive. And as you go ahead, you will keep making the changes. My first episode had no backdrop. You could literally see the bed behind me. And eventually, of course, I had a black screen, and then I used a green screen where you can kind of change your background. So all of that happens slowly. So do one step at a time. Start with the basics. Get the audio video right. Trust me, people are pretty... If your content is good, people are pretty patient in the beginning, especially. Nobody expects you to be Mr. Beast from day one. But yeah, you will get there. Trust me, you will get there. And budget for it. Budget for it well. And if possible, learn editing or get a good editor. And those two things can... In my case, I hired an editor. So I wanted to free up my time to focus more on the creative content part of this project. So it's a personal choice. Yeah, so my advice is, don't focus on perfection. Get it off the board. Most 99% of aspiring YouTubers are just aspiring. They never become YouTubers because they don't actually hit the accelerator for that last mile, for that eureka moment to start the channel. Just doesn't happen. So get it off the ground, and I'm telling you, eventually it becomes so addictive, you will not be able to stop. It will become a habit. It is, for me at least, extremely addictive. So how I pick guests, or for that matter, even topics. Firstly, I do a little bit of research and reading in general, and that is not just with the intention of this podcast. I generally do. Also, over the period of the last 2 years, because Indic Explorer as a idea is much older than Indic Explorer as a YouTube channel. Like I said, it's 2.5 years plus now that I've been running some social media handle or the other on this name. So I've met a lot of interesting people, developed a lot of connections and networks. Not, again, I emphasize, not with the sole purpose of starting this channel. I don't think that was there even in my head at that time. And I just met a lot of interesting people, and I was able to via reach out to people, or sometimes probably even met, like for example, Vibhuti ji, I met him through Clubhouse, So a lot of interesting people that way. I met Professor Butler or Roshan Cariappa from Twitter. So yeah, I mean, it happened, and that's how some one way or another guests get picked. And for the first time, very recently, I did a show where someone actually messaged me, and that's a huge honor actually for me to come on my show. That never happened before. That was one of the guests recently. So I think that's when I really felt, I have at least made some small mark. Someone to ask me that, okay, I want to be on your show is quite a big pat on my back for that. So that's how sometimes. So there are two ways. Sometimes I find a topic interesting and I try to figure out who's the right fit for that topic to speak on. Sometimes there's a certain guest that piques your attention that you want on the show. So you just reach out to them to bring them on the show, and the topic kind of finds itself. So both those two things have happened to me. So that's how I usually do it. And many people have told me, how do I come up with such interesting topics? I mean, the key was culture. It is so wide that I can fit anything in that umbrella. Like, it's a large, wide umbrella. So I think the initial concept stage was the key. So I think that is one reason why I've been able to have a very flexible, wide net in terms of topics and guests for my YouTube channel. Many people have asked me this question about what's the difference between Indic Paradigm, Indic Underground, and how did I suddenly pivot to the Indic Explorer Show? Like I explained before, Indic Paradigm. So I started the whole channel, the YouTube channel was actually supposed to be just one show, which is the Indic Underground. I'm not even kidding. I at one point thought, I was so camera shy initially that I at one point thought, should I wear a mask, or should I put the video off, or should I put an animated character and I should just put my voice up there, or crazy things like that. I even shot a rough cut once just with a mask on, just to see, the V for Vendetta mask, just to see how it looks like. I was like, oh my god, this is atrocious. I mean, and I could barely breathe in that mask, and the mic wasn't receiving the audio. So I was like, dude, this is crazy. And I just did a lot of experimentation, and which you, by the way, have to do before the YouTube channel. But yeah, some of it was quite crazy. So the Indic Underground was supposed to be, my idea initially was that I'm going to find underdogs, less known people, who are not covered in mainstream media or any other outlets of information dissemination. People who are either running handles, who are anonymous, etc., like just people who are civilizationally inclined, youngsters, but not famous people. That was the concept of Indic Underground. And I thought of it more as a movement rather than just even a YouTube channel. So that was the idea. Indic Paradigm, like I said, was a club name. It wasn't the initial idea at all. But I had decided that I'm going to do 3-4 different types of properties and shows on the same channel. So that's how decided that my Clubhouse group name, I could possibly use it for doing a different kind of show format. So the Indic Underground, less known people, underdogs, Indic Paradigm was supposed to be the more mainstream show where I would get very well-known guests. And my first guest on Indic Paradigm was, which was the first show I did there after the Vishaka Momoge episode, was Guru Prakash Paswan, whom I knew from before and who was the national BJP spokesperson. I called him on Independence Day. I still remember that, August 15th. So, yeah, I mean, that was the idea. Of course, it's very important as a YouTuber to be kind of connected with your audience. So, a lot of people told me, messaged me, etc., reached out to me and said that, Vineet, it's a little confusing because you have Indic Paradigm, you have Indic Underground, your YouTube channel is called Indic Explorer Channel. Just keep one name, just make it easy. And also the number of episodes, counting them on one show, 5 episodes of this show, 10 episodes of that show. How do you keep, count of all this? So I decided, somewhere in December that I'm just going to merge all of that together and just call it the Indic Explorer Show, make it easy for everyone's lives. And keeping it simple, silly. That's all that it was. My future plans. My future plans are to upgrade the show, improve whatever I can in terms of the presentation, in terms of the format, add newer topics. I've been wanting to do a show on drone technology, and hopefully I can get that sometime. So yeah, newer topics, expand the horizon for the audience. I also want to make it a little more accessible. I'm not sure if the content, I won't say that the content is niche, it's quite wide, but I don't know, probably the language. Somebody, some of the subscribers or viewers of this video can tell me, do you think that I should continue this in English, or should I switch to Hindi, or should it be English? I don't know. Just give me some suggestions on this, which will help me expand faster in terms of subscribers and views count. I thought if I should move to Hindi, I'm not sure. Like, I can speak in Hindi, but sometimes the chain of thought kind of gets disrupted. So अगर बोलना चाहूँ तो बोल सकता हूँ, लेकिन हाँ, सोच में पड़ जाता हूँ कि किस भाषा में करना चाहिए. So that's something I'm considering what to do about. I want some audience suggestions on. So that is there. And other future plans that I have are, I'm going to cover a topic on history, a very interesting topic, with someone who's not that well known, but has a very interesting point of view, and I would want you to watch that episode. It will be coming, I don't know, in the next month or so, probably, on Hinduism in Southeast Asia. How did it go there? It's a very interesting episode. I would definitely exhort the audience to check that one out. I also want to experiment with a few more formats. Monologues, yes, definitely. With monologues, I've noticed that I don't know whether it's a conflict between speaking stream of consciousness like I'm doing now and speaking prepared or an explainer video, where your whole video is scripted. See, in a conversation, in a podcast, it's a back and forth. But in a podcast, the conversation kind of kicks off and it just goes on and on, right? In a monologue, it's, it requires a lot of preparation and sometimes to speak in a very scripted way, a lot of research, etc. I don't know. When you speak from a script, at least when I speak from a script, I can't remember all the points. So it kind of can come across a little stilted. So I wasn't very sure. I always wanted to do it, but I never could get myself to do it. I don't know whether it's intellectual laziness or just the whole thing of remembering lines, etc. Although I'm a theatre actor, I've been a theatre actor in the past. That's not an issue, but I like this kind of a conversation, where I'm talking from the heart. So I would definitely want to do a monologue. I have a few ideas, sharp 10, 15, sharp 15, 20-minute monologues, for sure. So let's see, I'm kind of waiting for the right inspiration and the right topic. So yeah, that. And I also want to do other things like explainers, probably a listicles video, where I'm speaking from a prepared script when there's some graphics. I don't know when I'll be able to do that, but I would want to do that at least once. And also I would want to do a reaction video, and I have quite a few things that I would want to react to, not in a good way at all. So yeah, I would want to experiment a few formats. Also, let me know, guys, what other types of formats you would want to see on the show. And let's see if I can go about doing that. So yeah, I'm planning to do some of these new concepts and show formats in the future. I just have to, I don't know, just cross the last hump to reach execution. Ideas exist on paper. Finally, rapid fire round, just like Coffee with Karan. My favorite guest is Sohail Seth. I truly felt like that was one of my best podcasts, if not the best podcast. The conversation was so jam-packed with information. There were good videos and images there. I truly felt like I was in my A game as far as that particular episode is concerned. And Sohail also really liked the show a lot. And yeah, I think that conversation really went to some great intellectual heights, which I truly enjoyed. I don't know which is your favorite episodes, guys. You guys should tell me. Yeah, so favorite guest is Sohail Seth. Well, the favorite show overall is the show that I did with Abhijit Iyer Mitra, because I mean, Abhijit is funny, he's witty, he's charming, he knows how to kind of, win people over. And yeah, he's a showman, totally, And we had a good show on 3D printing. Very informative, very, it's one of those shows where you think that you will do something, but it throws you a surprise because the conversation goes in different directions. There was a lot of crystal ball gazing, ideation, brainstorming, whatnot. I truly enjoyed doing that. It was more like both of us were kind of, in a different zone altogether. Of course, for all those people who haven't seen these two shows, they should see it. But I would also ask people to watch. After the show got recorded with Abhijit, we did a special 3-part series called World War III. It was a comic back and forth. It was like an Iyer versus Iyengar standoff. He's an Iyer and I'm an Iyengar. And I think I put a very spirited defense and even some great offense for my community brothers. And I would definitely exhort you to see those 3 videos. Abhijit starts with his opening statement on Iyengars. I give a rebuttal. and give a critique of the Iyers. And the third part was the best part, which was basically a meme, of Iyers versus Iyengars. And do tell me at the end of it who won according to you. I think, I think I won, we won, whatever, whichever way you see it. But yeah, that was that. So do check that out as well. So it was quite funny and interesting. Dream guests. Oh my God. Internationally, I would want to have my idol Joe Rogan on the show. But in India, Makarand Pranjape, Professor Pranjape, I really idolize him a lot in terms of, being in JNU and having the views when he was there that he had and standing up for it. He's a great writer and he's very precise, sharp, knowledgeable. I really like that. Ram Madhavji, because he's someone who truly invests in the intellectual aspects of the Indic movement. And I really find that very interesting and I would love to pick his brains on that. Also, who else? There are quite a lot of dream guests actually. Vikram Sampath, of course, a great historian, and I definitely, it's rare that you meet somebody who's that well researched, who understands the Indian lens to history, and just incredible when it comes to giving his views and has all the credentials that a great historian should have. So that's quite a rare thing, and I really find that very appealing. And two other guests that I would love to have on my show, and they are no more dreams because they are going to come on the show very soon, is Ami Ganatra. She's a great writer on Ramayana and Mahabharata and a practitioner of yoga, and she's expected very soon on the show. And the ultimate dream, one of the big dream guests that I want is Malvika Sundar, premier exponent of Carnatic music, and one of the participants in Indian Idol as well as Super Singer in Tamil. So those two are part of the dream guest list, which will be happening soon. But the other three, hopefully, I'll get them sometime. So yeah. Is there any other guests that you want me to call, guys, or any topics that you want me to cover? Please put your comments on this video and let me know about it. We'll definitely try and do something. If you know someone you would want to get on the podcast, help me get in touch with them. That will be even better. What kind of topics I would like to cover? Like I said, drone technology is something that really interests me. The ethics of artificial intelligence, the metaverse, that interests me. Classical music, classical dance. Classical music is going to happen sometime soon, like I said, with Malvika. Classical dance, I would want to do this topic somehow, maybe with a good exponent of one of the Indian dance forms. Kalarippayattu, the Indian martial arts form from Kerala. Also some good wrestlers or pehelwans from the north of India, maybe from one of the akhadas. Would love to do that. What else? Probably Indian textiles, food. I would also want to do a set of shows on... Actually, 3 sets of shows I would want to do. One is on Indian military history, or just the Indian military culture generally. I'd love to talk and get to know the stories from many of the generals who served in the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force on their lives. They have so many interesting stories to share, and I really feel that many of these need to go, especially for civilians to understand military life. I think that's much the need of the hour. Probably a few shows on Indian history, And yeah, I mean, I think those two things especially I would want to kind of try and cover, so that, and yeah, anything which is very futuristic culture from a futuristic lens for India, I would really be interested in that. But yeah, please tell me if you feel something interesting that I can do. Yeah, and I would want to do something on yoga as well. So hopefully soon. So yeah, that's that. With that, I think I kind of covered everything that I wanted to cover, and we come to the end of the show. Thank you so much, guys, for loving the channel, liking the channel, following the content, different social media platforms. I'm still starting out new and figuring things out. So I'm going to need all your support in this journey, and hopefully we can all scale together. And that's all I have to say. Please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, until next time, Dharma rocks. See you around.